Cavs Aquatics UVA swimming coach Gary Taylor is on probation after admitting to emotional abuse of athletes. Chris Graham here, Augusta Free Press. You may have read our report on this from Monday, June 9th. If not, this is news to you, and I want to go through it in some detail. Gary Taylor is the head coach at Cavalier Aquatics, which is the Piedmont Family YMCA's competitive swim team for youths, preteens and teens. He's also an assistant coach with UVA Swimming. Well, he's currently on probation, 2-year probation, that was handed down by the U.S. Center for SafeSport. The probation was handed down after an investigation concluded with Taylor admitting to emotional misconduct while coaching swimmers from 2015 to 2022 at NC State, Auburn, and also at Cavalier Aquatics. Some more details as far as the legalese here, so to speak. The notice of decision in the case from SafeSport was made official on March 17th of this year, so just about 3 months ago. It was shared with officials at the Piedmont Family YMCA and with Todd DeSorbo, who is the head coach of the UVA swimming team. DeSorbo's name probably familiar to you. He's the rock star coach on grounds at UVA. He's led the women's swim team to 5 straight national titles. Most recent one just a couple months ago. He's also served as the head coach of the USA women's swimming team. That was back in the 2024 Summer Olympics. He led the team to 19 medals, including 6 golds. I mean, you know, this is the pantheon kind of guy, right? All right, the probation and details of the investigation into Taylor, all involving female swimmers. The reason you hadn't heard about this until our report 2 days ago is because Safe Sports policies regarding its investigations are a bit restrictive. The Safe Sport policies limit the reporting on investigatory findings to people directly associated with the case and, quote, prohibit claimants and respondents from sharing any confidential notices, e.g., notices of allegations or notices of decision, or the investigative report. Now, those folks can talk freely about it. They just can't actually share the actual notice of allegations or notice of decision. So that's why I'm reporting that it's a 2-year probation. I've actually not seen the notice of allegation or notice of decisions. I'm being told this by people who have seen it. Okay, so that's difficult reporting. A Safe Sport process navigator advised one party to the case in an email dated March 24th that I have been given access to, that while people with knowledge of the outcome are able to speak freely about the case, they must do so accurately and not cross any lines into harassment, retaliation, or emotional misconduct on their part, because that may open additional Safe Sport investigations. So, I mean, it's almost like, all right, yeah, we did the investigation. We found in this case, emotional misconduct. We've issued a probation, but we're not going to tell anybody about it. And if you speak just a slight bit out of line, it might lead to you being investigated. So this is why it's so tough to get this kind of reporting out. Um, Against that backdrop, I was able to speak with parents of victims named in the case, obtain emails detailing the efforts of a wider group of parents to have their concerns addressed at the local level before things escalated to the investigation by SafeSport. And I want to note here that I did reach out last week to both the Piedmont Family YMCA and the UVA Athletics to request an interview with Gary Taylor and also with Jessica Taylor, who is the CEO at the Piedmont Family YMCA and also is the wife of Gary Taylor. So there's some potential conflicts there. I also wanted to talk with Todd DeSorbo and with Carla Williams, the director of athletics at UVA, to discuss this story. I included in the request to both entities, UVA Swimming and to the Piedmont Family YMCA, a good outline of what we were about to report. Sent both that I was going to write about the admission of guilt from Taylor to all claims, and specifically that Taylor admitted to emotional misconduct. So I didn't want to spring on anything on anybody. I didn't want to just say, "Hey, give me the chance to talk to these people," without letting them know that I knew what had happened, the probation, that kind of thing. So a UVA athletics department spokesperson wrote back to say that UVA athletics would, quote, respectfully decline the interview request and the opportunity to comment. And also, Jessica Taylor, the Piedmont Family YMCA person, did not respond to the request at all that I made of her. So all were given a chance to speak on the record, to talk with me, to make people available, to offer comment. I think it's fair to say that the lack of response would seem to concede the veracity of what you're about to hear. So Taylor was named the head coach of Cavalier Aquatics in 2021, 4 months after he left the head coaching job at Auburn. I called it a conscious uncoupling in the story that I wrote, was described at the time as the two having, quote, mutually agreed to part ways. Taylor came on board with the enthusiastic backing of Todd DeSorbo, who had worked with Taylor at NC State, where DeSorbo was an assistant from 2011 to 2017, and Taylor was an assistant from 2012 to 2018. So several years there, they were assistants on the staff together. I got a copy of an email that was sent out by Cavalier Aquatics to parents announcing the decision to hire uh, Gary Taylor that included this note that I'm about to read to you from Todd DeSorbro praising Gary Taylor. I'm excited that Gary has chosen to take over the helm of Cavalier Aquatics. I've known Gary for over 10 years as a peer, a competitor, and a friend. While working together at NC State previously, I was able to witness firsthand his dedication to the sport, the calls, and his athletes. Now, DeSorbo, it should be noted, is also listed as being on the staff at Cavalier Aquatics with the title Director of High Performance. DeSorbo's wife, I need to point out here, her name is Lauren Suggs. She is a member of the board of directors at the Piedmont Family YMCA, which again oversees the Cavalier Aquatics program. So to reset, okay, just to get kind of where we are, Todd DeSorbo was instrumental in recruiting Gary Taylor to come to Charlottesville. DeSorbo's wife is a member of the board of directors, the nonprofit that oversees Cavalier Aquatics, and Taylor went on to marry the CEO of the Piedmont Family YMCA. After selling in Charlottesville, he married the person who ostensibly is responsible for oversight of his job. That background is important to note because complaints from parents about abusive behavior from Gary Taylor toward young competitive swimmers on the Cavalier Aquatics team surfaced soon after he took the job. And from what I've been told by several parents, their concerns were never addressed by YMCA leaders. Not only have I been told that, I actually have email evidence, email back and forth evidence that will show that. We'll go into that here as we continue. As the complaints mounted, the attempts to get leadership at the Piedmont Family YMCA and DeSorbo to intervene began to surface. The program started losing swimmers in droves. Parents of swimmers in the senior group coached by Taylor kept track of the departing swimmers and identified 31 swimmers out of the 62, so right at half, I mean exactly half, in that group who left the team during Taylor's first year on the job. One swim parent searching for answers reached out to swimmers at Auburn who had been on the team during Taylor's years there to try to find out if there had been similar issues with him ahead of his departure. That interaction would be the seed towards what launched the SafeSport investigation of Gary Taylor. So there's where we are. Now I'm going to read to you from a lengthy text that one of the Cavalier Aquatic swimmers who decided to quit sent to Gary Taylor explaining her decision to leave the team. The way you speak to some of your swimmers is extremely degrading. I feel like you feel the need to treat me like I am a child, which is something I am not. Basically, telling us that we weren't good enough is unacceptable. It seems like you have no concern for your swimmers' lives and assume that swimming is their highest priority, which for some of them it might be. I think you fail to realize that your swimmers have lives outside of club swimming, the young swimmer wrote. Now, this is just one of many testimonials that I will, read to you. I say testimonials, I don't know what other word they're giving testimony. I mean, that's I know testimonials come to mean a different thing, but they're giving their testimony here to what abuse they endured. Multiple efforts again to get the YMCA to address the issues with Taylor. One parent on June 6, 2022 requested a quote confidential meeting with a guy named Bob Bremer, who was a former associate dean for management and finance at the University of Virginia. And in 2022, he was the chair of the board of the Piedmont Family YMCA. In the email request, the parent noted to Bremer the desire to meet confidentially because, quote, those before me who have spoken with Y staff have gotten nowhere. And the parent also feared that additional meetings with staff would, quote, be counterproductive and result in retaliation. The parent later presented Bremer with an unsigned letter detailing concerns from a group of parents that highlighted the issues with emotional abuse, which Brimmer then forwarded to Jessica Taylor. She was then known as Jessica Maslany. She and Gary Taylor were not married at that time. And she responded in a July 15th, 2022 email, so about a month later, back to the parent, and she dismissed in that email the quote credibility of that unsigned letter. There are several claims raised in the letter without specific facts or examples, she wrote in the email back to the parent. If facts and examples exist to substantiate any claim in the letter, then we encourage the author to come forward and share them with us. Otherwise, those claims are not something we can or will investigate. So Maslany Taylor, that's how I'll refer to her because at the time she was known as Jessica Maslany, went on to issue what appears to be at least a veiled threat to the parent in the reply email. Quote, there are a number of statements in the letter that are false and represent accusations that could be damaging to personal and professional careers and reputations. We will take all appropriate actions to support any YMCA employee who is inappropriately and unfairly maligned or disrespected, regardless of the forum. And she concluded her reply. What started as a disappointment in a group placement, that's what she claimed, has escalated into unsubstantiated and damaging accusations against our staff, violates our parent code of conduct, and will not continue to be tolerated. So parents have reached out. Lots have left the team. Lots of swimmers have left the team. Parents have reached out to address concerns. Their attempts to address concerns were rebuffed. So at this point, this is when one of the YMCA parents made the reach out to Taylor's former swimmers at Auburn. We're talking about 2023 now, so things kind of simmered there for even after this exchange with the YMCA CEO. The hunch was that the abusive behavior that parents were witnessing from the coach in Charlottesville didn't begin out of the blue when he moved north. And after that initial contact, Taylor's former Auburn swimmers began to communicate with each other. Some expressing surprise that Taylor had landed another coaching job after his departure from Auburn. Again, that had been sold to the public as the two sides mutually agreeing to part ways. The group down at Auburn then would eventually share with parents in Charlottesville and later with SafeSport statements detailing the emotional abuse they'd endured during their time swimming under Taylor at Auburn. And later, because NC State swimmers got involved too, there were swimmers there who would offer statements to that effect as well. I was given access to a document in which the Auburn swimmers had highlighted the abuse they'd endured, and I'll share some of those here. Um, and there was a lot more. This is sort of the tip of the iceberg. Let's just say. One athlete who wrote that Taylor had confronted her about taking a mental health break to go home one weekend said the coach, quote, never once asked if I was okay or anything made me feel guilty for my and made me feel guilty for my mental health and trying to take care of it. Quote, Gary has also mentioned on a number of occasions that he prides himself on being able to make girls cry very easily. That's disturbing. One swimmer who had an asthma attack during a dry land training exercise, if I remember from, it was basically running stairs. Said Taylor advised the trainer, "Don't help her, she's fine." So there's a athlete having an asthma attack, and "Don't help her, she's fine" is the advice of the trainer. She later lost her spot on the team, and she wrote that she's terrified for the girls who are still being coached by him and will have to put up with his verbal abuse. Quote, I don't think that a lot of girls will be able to overcome some of the things that he said to me. I think he will continue to tear people down again and again, all from things he has made up in his head. I wish I could count on two hands the amount of people that have told me that Gary has made them feel so small and worthless. He will continue to tarnish athletes' confidence until change happens. So, an example of tarnishing athletes' confidence will come from another swimmer who wrote about an assistant coach under Taylor who came to practice one day with a children's book that is called The Pout Pout Fish. I had not heard of this book, don't have kids. The book tells the story of a gloomy fish who believes his destiny is to spread dreariness, but then transforms into the Kiss Kiss fish after, a little encounter with a very happy fish who gives him a kiss. And then the Pout Pout fish dedicates himself to spreading happiness instead. The assistant coach, the swimmer in this case, wrote, said he would start giving the book out at the end of the week to quote the person with the worst attitude. I unfortunately got the book the swimmer wrote. I don't know if it does much giving a 20-year-old a children's book about attitudes, but it certainly made me angry and question the coach's ability to lead and teach. They only truly care about swimming, not even the swimmer, but solely their performance, and it's ruining people from inside out. This swimmer went on to relate that she'd been diagnosed with ADHD, seasonal depression, and anxiety caused by the stress that she'd endured from Taylor and his staff. Quote, I never in a million years would have thought I'd be having to decide if I wanted to take antidepressants or question if I wanted to continue doing the sport I love. I've been scared. I've had numerous anxiety attacks and days where I just lay in bed and cry thinking about how much different I thought my college swimming experience would be. But enough is enough, and I'm done being scared of him and being scared to express my emotions. Another swimmer, this is a lot. Another swimmer who'd been recruited by Taylor's predecessor, Brett Hawk, described being bullied by Taylor to quit the team, but persisting because of her commitment to the Auburn swim program and to her teammates. I entered Auburn with a deep love and passion for swimming, and I could not wait to represent Auburn. After swimming for Gary for 2 years, I dreamed of my final practice, final race, and most importantly, final interaction with Gary. He killed my love for the sport. Getting to go to practice and see my teammates used to be the highlight of my day, but having to go interact with Gary made me absolutely dread going to practice every day. I got to the point that I had to go see a therapist every week or two just to be able to mentally survive. Wow. It goes on. Another swimmer described how Taylor had taken an innocuous comment that she had made to him during a recruiting phone call that she was, quote, excited to race for something bigger than myself and to be a part of the outstanding legacy that Auburn possesses. And he used that against her for the next 2 years. In a team meeting, she wrote, Taylor used the comment to make a point to his swimmers, quote, about how we do not deserve to say or to be a part that we can be a part of Auburn's legacy because we did not have the winning record or accomplishments they did. At one point, he made me stand up in front of everyone and made an example of me as to why we shouldn't say the word legacy in that connotation. He embarrassed me so much, taking this was the first time he said anything to me in person. After that meeting, he made comments and gestures to the original conversation we had multiple times the rest of the year and again multiple times my sophomore year. I felt like an absolute fool for telling him how I felt in that moment. And looking back, I would have never said that in the first place had I known I'd be paying the repercussions for it a year and 2 years after. Looking back, this was the beginning of an exhausting reality that I would participate in with the coaches, that of an unsafe, untrustworthy, toxic environment of poor communication. All because she said she wanted to be part of the legacy of Auburn swimming. That was her sin. Oh my goodness. This is terrible. Okay, there's more. A captain of one of Taylor's teams at Auburn wrote that she would come to regret accepting her leadership role because of the approach that Taylor took to berating and ridiculing captains in meetings. Quote, I do not matter. I am such a failure. I am messing up everyone's season. It would be better for everyone if I just left. Those were my thoughts walking out of his office, the swimmer wrote. I would sit in my car in the Coliseum parking lot and cry, praying no one I knew would walk by. Sometimes I wouldn't even make it out of the elevator before the tears started. All I'm going to say is, good thing you can't see me crying underneath the goggles that we wear. Taylor in a meeting with another swimmer. I mean, I just this adds up. Who he told repeatedly one swim season that she was not getting results in the pool because she, quote, lacked confidence. He asked her when she pushed back against another assertion on the confidence thing, are you on your period? This is totally inappropriate, obviously. That comment forced me to see the sports psych more often and to have a one-on-one with Gary with another coach monitoring our conversation. Basically, she couldn't do one-on-ones without another coach there. Quote, the meeting went poorly and our relationship was very toxic, detailing later in her testimony that she had, quote, ended up being clinically depressed and became a harm to myself. When she told Taylor about her mental health struggles, he assigned her to another group, quote, and repeated the fact that he had given up on me and doesn't want anything to do with me. I feel like an outcast, unwanted, a failure, and a constant reminder to him of his failure, the swimmer wrote. My main fear in telling him about my mental health struggles was the treatment and stigma that comes with it, which he promised he wouldn't judge. Instead, his decision for not trusting me or considering me for captain was my mental instability and my depression I expressed the year I swam with him. He holds my struggle over my head and makes me feel like an unwanted monster. Gary's inflexibility, ego, sexism, and overall inappropriate comments have been super harmful towards me. I'm a huge believer that college sports are a business, and I was always prepared to have a difficult boss. I was never prepared to be harassed and mistreated in this way. Deep breath, right? So the SafeSport investigation into Gary Taylor was already underway when UVA Athletics announced on May 28th, 2024, so just about a year ago, that Taylor had been named the associate head coach for the UVA swimming program. So, as had been the case when Taylor was hired to head up Cavalier Aquatics, Todd DeSorbro offered a glowing quote for the press release from the athletics department. Of course he did, because he's the guy who hired his friend to be the associate head coach. Quote, I have known Gary for over 10 years and worked alongside him for 5 years while we were both at NC State. He's a fantastic coach with great vision, but an even better person and friend. I've been fortunate to also work alongside him the past 3 years as he's led our local club, Cavalier Aquatics, to new heights and many successes. More from the quote in the press release. He's coached athletes to the Olympics, World Championships. He's coached NCAA champions, and he's also coached 9 and 10-year-old age group swimmers. He knows how to push athletes to be their best, and how to relate and make the sport fun at all levels. I'm excited to have him joining our staff and looking forward to our program continuing to advance with the addition of Gary. He knows how to make the sport fun at all levels. He's asking female swimmers if they're on their period. He's belittling them. This is terrible. I can't believe this. Okay, so the next day, so May 28th, UVA announces him as the new associate head coach for swimming. May 29th, a Cavalier Aquatics swim parent reached out to Carla Williams, the athletics director at UVA, just to refresh that, to quote, give you a heads up that you should start preparing for some blowback, with mention of the ongoing investigation from SafeSport that the parent wrote, quote, may result in a temporary or complete suspension from coaching in the sport. Quote, Taylor has been sheltered at the YMCA because his new wife is its CEO and his good friend is Todd DeSorbo, whom I respect but believe he is blinded by friendship. I fear that Taylor's reputation and behavior will become a blemish on UVA swimming successes, the parent wrote in that May 29 email, a day after UVA announced that Gary Taylor had been named the associate head coach for swimming. This email concluded, you should start preparing a response as to why such a coach was hired and whether he will be retained given his anticipated suspension. So that parent reached out to Williams again. I've got copies of these emails on September 30th. So this would have been, what, 4 months later, with an update on the progress of the investigation, concluding with a line that, quote, UVA should anticipate having one of its coaches sanctioned for misconduct, not a good look for the team or the university. Now, Williams replied to that email with a thanks for the update. And a note that with all related correspondence, we will forward your communication to the university's Office of General Counsel. So, um, Carla Williams was aware, very aware of what was going on. Now, the March 17th notice of decision focuses on complaints made against Taylor during his time at NC State, Auburn, and Cavalier Aquatics, which is to say there were no findings against him in that notice of decision related to members of the UVA swimming program. I feel the need to point that out. Taylor would be wrapping up in the next couple of weeks his first full academic sports year as a coach. Academic sports year ends on June 30th, so a couple weeks away. Because of the secrecy that seems to be inherent with the SafeSport investigatory process, I have not been able to ascertain the details of how the 2-year probation might affect his ability to continue coaching and any repercussions for additional findings against him. From what I've learned from doing background work on this story, it seems that Taylor is still coaching with both Cavalier Aquatics and with UVA Athletics. So that's what I know. Um, we're going to continue to press this issue. That's all I can say until UVA Athletics and Cavalier Aquatics do something, whatever that may be. Even just publicly acknowledging it would be something. So that's where things stand. Hey, if you have sat through this, either the video podcast, listen to everything on the audio podcast, the MP3. Thank you for doing so. Thank you for your attention to the matter. And if you're someone from NC State, from Auburn, from Cavalier Aquatics, from UVA Swimming, who wants to report their experiences, hey, feel free to reach out. You probably noticed the only names I've included in this report, this audio video report, and also in our written report that was published on Monday are the names of, the officials at the YMCA and officials with UVA Swimming. We'll protect your identity. We just kind of want to know what you know. If that's the case, please feel free to drop me a line by email at chris@augustafreepress.com. We'll keep you confidential. We just want to know more about, what you know, good or bad, as far as that goes. So again, thank you for your time and your attention, and I just wish everyone a great day.